Hey guys, what's going on today? Bojo here, and we are back with our NHL 15 Be a Pro series following Rick DiPietro and the unknown team that we don't know yet. So, fortunately, our year 2 run with Rick DiPietro has ended here, but we're going to be making that decision today of either staying with the Calgary Flames organization or moving on to a new team, because once again, we did sign a 1-year deal with Calgary. And we can make our decisions here. So, last episode, we ended off the final game of the regular season against the Arizona Coyotes, who kicked our ass 6-2. We went over our stats, and Calgary finished the year 31-44-7, which was good enough for the second worst team in the NHL. So, more than likely, they got a very good pick in the draft this year. But now it's time for us to weigh our options. I gave you guys the option to, give me some suggestions on what you think I should do, if I should move on to a new team or if we should stay in Calgary. And staying in Calgary was definitely not a fan favorite for Rick DiPietro's fans and his agents. Because, I mean, if we go back to last year for Calgary, they were a decent team halfway through the year. When we started to get that really good winning streak going from, three out of the previous 4 games that we played, we had like shutout after shutout after shutout, and we were winning games like crazy. Then the defense started to get injured, and we really took a hurt. Yuri Hoodler was out for a while. Our offense started to get injured, and we traded away Mark Giordano, and that's a really big hurt to our defense. So honestly, looking on the defensive core, because that's honestly one of my main focuses, especially since I'm a goaltender, who's the top 2 defensemen next year for Calgary? Dennis Wideman and TJ Brody. I mean, Schmid and Chris Russell, and then who's your bottom 6? Ben and Wotherspoon again? It's not looking too good for Calgary defensively wise. Offense, they're still looking good. They got a lot of young players that I would assume they would be re-signing. So the offense still looks good, but the defense is still a very big question mark there, which I don't think I want to commit to another year of struggling defensemen. Because the Islanders, they had some good established defensemen, but, Gar Snow as a GM over there, I just wanted to get out of there as quick as possible. So, like I said, we will simulate here. We're in, I believe, either free agent. I think we're in the re-sign stage right now. So, we're going to simulate all the way up till here till we hit free agency. We're probably going to get some notifications of restricted free agents that Calgary is still signing, because we're technically still a part of the Calgary Flames until we have made a decision and we see which the 3 teams that we will have to choose from here. But yeah, as you guys can see, they're re-signing some of the players. So Colburn is back for the Flames next year. And pardon me for my voice if I sound weird. I'm still recovering from a cold. Just as soon as the weather starts to get nice, I gotta get sick again, but gotta fight through it. All right, Corbin Knight is back on the roster for them. Hopefully, we should be hitting free agency soon. Yoni Ortio is back, so they're just re-signing prospects and stuff like that. Patrick Seeloff is back, prospect to defensive prospect. Let's see, simulate day. Jordy Ben back with them. So see, yeah, there's your top 6 defensemen right there. Not looking too good about that. Okay, so here we go, boys. Free agency has begun. Hey, I have some contract offer information for you to consider. Well, my phone has been ringing off the hook. Seems like there's a lot of league interest in a hybrid goalie like you. I have 4 offers for you to consider. So we know one of them is Calgary. Let's see what other 3 teams are interested in Rick DiPietro for this 3rd year. So remember, first year back, it was a very bad struggle there that we had in New York. This year was a lot better, but we struggled at the second half of the season. We had a very good start to it, but then started to crumble at the end of the year. So we want to see if we can continue to have a very good, solid performance throughout the year. So let's see what teams are interested in Rick DiPietro. Okay, so we have some interesting offers here on the table. All right, so we got the Calgary Flames yet again. So 31-44-7, good enough for second worst team in the NHL. They wanted to give us 2 years at $0.550 million. Okay. Next up is the Minnesota Wild, 41-36-5. I believe Minnesota was a team that gave us an offer last year. They want us at 1 year at $0.58 mil, so more money. Very interesting. Next up is Toronto. They want to give us 2 years. That record looks really good, though. 52, 21, and 9 for 2 years at $0.585 million. Or the Anaheim Ducks. We could stay in our division, but move over to Anaheim. 36, 33, and 13. 1 year at $0.550 million. Okay, so like I said, the fan favorite and, well, the fans have spoken and the agents have spoken out. We're not going to spend 2 years in Calgary. I don't think Rick DiPietro is part of the rebuild here in Calgary, so we want to move on. We're going to eliminate that right off the bat. Now, we have 3 interesting teams here. We could stay in the same division and go to Anaheim. So let's take each team individually. Let's analyze it. I'm just going to analyze it in my head right now. Okay, so 3 years in, Anaheim. Let's take a look at their offense. Ryan Getzlaf should still be there. Corey Perry should still be there. You know, Anaheim has a lot of fairly good young forwards in there. Devontae Smith-Pelly, I would assume, is still on the team because we started this before the roster update was made. So Devontae Smith-Pelly is probably still on the team. Emerson Edom, Silverberg, Cogliano still on there. You know, Anaheim has some pretty good... Ryan Kessler, it's a very good center too. So, you know, they have some threats on offense. They got some pretty good studs there. Defensively, though, on the other hand, Cam Fowler, Lindholm, I mean, some young players, definitely, but it's a little bit questionable on the defense. I would say they're young, but I wouldn't say they're just that. There's like, they don't have a stud defenseman on there. And then goaltending-wise, Frederik Andersen, John Gibson could be really good by this time, so you never know who is the starter there in Anaheim, and that could be pretty good starter-wise. So Anaheim, pretty appealing, I would say so. Now, Toronto. Toronto, I would say, is not initially on my radar because they want me for 2 years, but that record looks good, 52, 21, and 9. You know, offensively, they still got Kessel. They probably still have JVR, Nazem Kadri, Bozak, Clarkson. You know, probably still some good young players on offense. A lot of chippy grinders as well. Defensively, though, is a bit of a question. Dion Phaneuf, I would still assume there. Morgan Riley, Cody Franzen, Jake Gardner. You know, it's not terrible defenseman. No, not bad, I would say. Morgan Riley, 3 years in, would probably have some pretty good stats. Phaneuf might be starting to drop off a bit, but defensively, they're not bad, I would say so. 2 years, though, in Toronto. It's a little bit scary, but, you know, they had a very good season last year. 52, 21, and 9. It's a very good, respectable record. I think they were top of the league for, they might have been the President's Trophy winning team. Who knows? I forget. I didn't look at the stats. But, yeah, they're definitely one of the better teams. Or we could stay in the Western Conference and go to Minnesota. Now, 41, 36, and 5. It's a sub 500 record. It is an exactly 500 record, 41 and 41. Offensively, you know, you got Zach Parise, Thomas Vanek. Who else? Nino Niederreiter might be pretty good 3 years in by now. They got a lot of young players too. Charlie Coyle. Got pretty good depth-wise too. Brodziak, I would think. Yeah, so their offense, they're okay offensively. Defensively, though, Ryan Suter. That's a very good appealing defenseman there that Minnesota has. Ryan Suter. That's pretty appealing there. Plus, they got I would say, who else? Jonas Brodin, Scandella. Who else? Is that it? I think that's it. So, this one's tough. This one's pretty tough, to be perfectly honest. I don't want to come back with Calgary. That's definitely something there. This one's tough. You could take Minnesota because you'll have an offensive stud in Zach Parise. You'll have a stud defender in Ryan Suter, and some probably above average, I would think, defensemen. Toronto, you're going to have some studs on offense with Kessel, JVR, Bozak. You'll have some pretty good studs on defense. I wouldn't say maybe Morgan Riley's a stud by now, but you'll have some pretty good defensemen in Toronto, probably above average as well. Or you could go with Anaheim, who have 3 really good studs, Getzlaf, Perry, and Kessler, but not really a pretty good established defensive core made up mostly of Cam Fowler and Hampus Lindholm. This one's tough. This one's pretty tough. Do you take offense over defense, or do you take defense over offense? This one's tough. Oof. I think it's between Minnesota and Toronto right now. I think Toronto has better offense than Anaheim does. I do think they have a better defense in this game, I'm saying. Or you could take Minnesota. It's 1 year. It's 1 year in Minnesota, or it's 2 years in Toronto. That's a big question too. Do we want to get shat on by the Toronto Maple Leafs media, or do we want to go to Minnesota, stay in the Western Conference? That's a thing too. Do we want to move back to the East, or do we want to stay in the West? Number of goalies. They both have 4 goalies on the roster. Toronto's paying us an extra $5,000 for an extra 2 years, though. That's really... I don't know what to do. I do not know what to do. Suter, Phaneuf, and Riley. Parise, Vanek, Kessel, JVR, Bozak. I think we have to do it, boys. I think we have to do it. It might be 2 years, but you know what? That record is very appealing to me. 50-win season with only 21 regulation losses and 9 overtime losses. Rick DiPietro, pack your bags. We're going back to Canada. Well, actually, DiPietro is American. What am I saying? Is he American? I think he is. Anyway, pack your bags, Dippy. We're going from Calgary, staying in Canada, but we're going back to the Eastern Conference. We're joining the Toronto Maple Leafs for 2 years. It might be a bad decision, but you never know. We'll have to see how it pans out here in Toronto. So there we go. We're now a part of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm so happy you decided to join the Toronto Maple Leafs. Welcome to our family. We have big things planned for you, and we hope you fit in well out here. So, Dave Nonis now is our GM here in Toronto. Who is the head coach now? I do not remember. All you Maple Leafs fans, I know there's a bunch of you guys out there. Definitely can help me out with that. And I never weighed the goaltenders too either. I just noticed that. So you had, what was that? Anaheim, you had Frederik Andersen and John Gibson most likely. That's pretty good. Minnesota, yeah, Minnesota, not really good goaltending wise. I would think so by this time. Who would you have? Kemper, Backstrom by that time. Not really too appealing here. You have Bernier and Reimer and DiPietro now. So you're going to have a 3-way goalie battle, it seems, for the teams now. So, all right, so let's edit our player here. Let's edit up DiPietro. We got to change our equipment. There he is, DiPietro. Looking pretty snazzy in that Maple Leafs getup. Oh, good lord. All right, so let's rock out here with some Toronto gear. Select the team mask. I believe they have us presetted for the AHL. So let's see how the Marlies helmets look. Oops, those are Texas Stars. Alright, so let's see what the Marlies. That one looks pretty cool. I actually like that. I'm gonna keep that one. I'm gonna keep that. We have the neck protector, which is good. Alright, now we can edit up our stick tapes too. Alright, so we gotta change that to the blue for the blue and white here in Toronto. So let's change that for the blue stick tape. We can still keep our Warrior stick, I believe. I don't know if it changes or not. I don't think it does. But we want to change up the pads though in the blocker. So let's change up our blocker here. Let's get something new rocking in Toronto. Do we want to rock some CCMs? Let's get something with a very cool design that looks good in blue and white. Vaughn doesn't look cool. Cohos? Nah, we need some color here. Need some pretty big color. How about those? The Vaughns? Nah. CCMs? No, there's like no color in that whatsoever. How about these Vaughns? Yeah, the Vaughns look pretty good. Alright, so we'll rock those, or this one. How about that one? Those ones are pretty cool. You know, we'll rock with those ones. And we'll change up our blocker to match it, so we need a Vaughn blocker then. Which one would look pretty cool? I think this one might look pretty decent. No. How about that one? No. How about that one? Yeah, it's getting better. How about that one? That one's not bad. That one's pretty cool. I like that one. Yeah, I like that one. And then glove, we need to rock out with Vaughn for the glove too. Rock out all Vaughn here in Toronto. How about that one? As a Warrior Trapper. One. No. No. I can't really tell because I can't like shift it. How about that one? What's the color? There we go. Alright, cool. So Rick DiPietro. Don't think there's anybody number 39 on Toronto. If there is, let me know. So once again, guys, in the comment section down below, let me know. I already know the general manager for the Maple Leafs, Dave Nonis, so he is my GM. Head coach, you have to remind me about that. And the number. Do we have to change Rick DiPietro's number, or is there nobody on the team with number 39 for goaltender? Okay, so let's go to the calendar here, and we can simulate through the rest of the offseason here with Toronto as they begin free agency all the way up to the end here. We'll see who they sign. We'll take a look at our lineups, and we'll get ready to probably start our season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. That should be very interesting now. All right, so free agent Cristiano DiPietro. So DiPietro apparently joining the team now. So 3 years in for Toronto. Like I said, Kessel should still be good. Kalen Booth is good. All right, so JVR is still probably good then. Diamphomov might be trailing off a little bit 3 years in, but I would think by now 3 years in, Morgan Riley, I think, would be a very good defenseman. As well as Franzen and Gardner as well, because, you know, they didn't trade them off to, well, they didn't trade Franzen off to Nashville again because we started this before the roster update, so obviously it's not going to happen. David Brohl, now part of the Maple Leafs. Probably just some free agent rookies we're signing. Never know too. There might be a rookie on the roster as well. 3 years in, you never know. But it'll be interesting to see. All right, so let's simulate here. I gotta be wary about where I simulate to because last time I did, I actually simulated a game or two past where I was supposed to. All right, so free agents here, August. We'll take it to the end of September, and then we'll go one day at a time once we enter October. Alright, so let's simulate. Whoops, we're in October. Let's go up there till September. Now, it should be going by a lot quicker now. There you go. All through September. Alright, I'm going to stop the simulation right there. Stop that right there because I do believe the calendar is going to update soon. When I get through this, I want to check out my lines. I want to see who my teammates are. Oh, sim to the next game. All right, so we're good now. All right, so the schedule has updated. All right, let's take a look at our season expectations for this year once again. So they want us to have a save percentage of 98% again. 2.64 goals against average. They want us to play in 23 games, 3 shutouts, and 13 wins. So it's pretty much the same expectations that we had for us in Calgary. Okay, so we're 73 overall. Let's look at this team. Let's look at this lineup for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The starting lineups for Toronto. Okay, so first line, James Van Riemsdyk, Nazem Kadri, and Phil Kessel. All right, so Kessel's 91 overall. That's very appealing to me. Nazem Kadri, 86 overall, pretty good. Still getting better, top 6 forward, and JVR, 87-27 by this time. So it's a very good first line, JVR, Kadri, and Kessel, no doubt. Second line, we got Joffrey Lupul, 86, Tyler Bozak, 87, and David Clarkson, 84. So unfortunately, Clarkson still is a part of this team on the second line. That's definitely a position I would think Toronto definitely needs to upgrade in, but Bozak and Lupul are very good second liners. They're above average second liners. Bozak definitely is an above average second liner, so I'm happy about those two on the second line. Third line, we got David Booth, Mike Sandarelli, and Carter Ashton. So we got a power forward, two-way forward, and a power forward. So Booth still in the third line here. Carter Ashton, a little bit of a chippier type of player. And then Santarelli's got that speed there with still pretty good defense on that third line, other than Ashton. Ashton's really not that great defensively, but Booth and Santarelli are pretty good, and they're decently fast too, which is good to know. And then on the fourth line, we got Brad Ross, okay, Leo Komarov, and Tyler Biggs. So Tyler Biggs, I know, is a rookie in the Maple Leafs organization, so he gets called up to play the fourth line as a power forward. It's good. He's got 5-star category for physical, which is nice. Leo Komarov, you know, he's kind of a chippier type of player, but nice defensive type player there for the 4th line. Brad Ross, that's a little bit of a downgrade on the 4th line, I would say. 24 years old. He's still young, but he's considered as a top 6 AHL forward. So not so sure on how I feel about that, but you know, you got 5 really good players here. JVR, Kadri, Kessel, Lupul, and Bozak. It's fairly good. You know, if they could get a second liner to play with Bozak and Lupul, move Clarkson down, and replace Ross with Ashton, this team would actually be pretty solid, not going to lie. But they need a second liner of some sort to replace Clarkson. All right, so defense now. This is the big question here. Who we got? All right, I'm glad I decided to do that because 3 years in, Morgan Rielly is 89 overall. That's a very good decision on my part. He's only 22, and he's elite potential to get even better. So he's still 89. That's good. Jake Gardner, 86. I'm liking this defense already. Dion Phaneuf, by this time he's 31. Starting to trail off a little bit, but he's still pretty good. 86 overall there for Dion the Pylon. 84 for Cody Franzen. Stuart Passy is 82 overall. Another prospect for Toronto. And Roman Polak, 82. So, very good defense. Very good defensive core, I would say. The top 4 is very good. It's much better than Calgary's was, by far. Better stud, too, than Morgan Rielly, who's definitely a better defenseman than Mark Giordano. And he's an offensive defenseman, too. So, you got guys who can lay the body, too. Gardner can hit. Franz and Phaneuf can hit, sort of. Percy, I have to see what he's all about. He's a fast skater, it seems. Roman Polak, more of a defensive type player. But the defense looks pretty good. And who they got in net? Do they have Reimer or do they have Bernier? All right, so they're going to start Jonathan Bernier, 86 overall. Okay, so there's the starting lineup for Toronto. Interesting. I like the team. I do. I'm very happy to have a stud player like Phil Kessel on my lineup now, 81 overall. I mean, he's pretty much just he's a new John Tavares with better players to work around him. I mean, Johnny T did have Okposo, but Kessel has JVR, Lupul, Kadri, and Bozak. So it's a lot more weapons to work with Kessel than Tavares had in the Isle. And defensively, I would say Toronto is a little bit better than Calgary. All right, so yeah, that's what the lineup looks like. It's unfortunate I can't look at the other teams' rosters, which kind of sucks. I can look at Stats Central, you know, and take a look at all the player stats. Why don't we do that? Let's take a look at all the teams really quickly just to show you guys who is... it doesn't show, does it? Hold on, forwards. No data to display at this time. Okay, so we can't check out the teams yet until we get through some games. All right, so you know what? Let's simulate some games here with Toronto. Why not? Let's simulate a couple games here. Our first game is we are on a road trip to start. We're not going to get the home opener, which is kind of expected. So you know what? Let's play the next game here. We're not starting in Boston. Toronto versus Boston. To start off year number 3. We'll see how we do, and we'll wait till we get our first start here in Toronto. All right, and we're gonna start off with a win over the Boston Bruins. All right, and now I can actually check out these stats for everybody after that game. Phil Kessel had 2 points in that game. All right, bud, liking you already. All right, so wait for it to come up. There we go. All right, so let's just check out all the goaltenders for each team first. All right, so goaltenders. All right, so Toronto. It's only going to go by the goalies played. All right, we're going to have to do it a little bit later on. Once we play a game, then we can check all the stats. All right, so let's simulate a game here. Probably by the time we play our next game, we'll know that we're a part of Toronto anyway. All right, so we're not getting that game against Ottawa. But as long as Toronto. All right, and Joffrey Lupul's out. Second game of the year. All right, so just like that. Had a pretty good offense, but we still managed to win that game nonetheless. But just like that. All right, there's Minnesota. They're 2-0 to start the year. As well, the two teams we were deciding on whether DiPietro was going to decide to play for. Maybe we'll get that start against Minnesota. And we will not, unfortunately. Minnesota's 3-0 to start the year. Very interesting. I do want to take a look at how Minnesota looks. And we gave up Suter there, but Toronto's on a pretty good streak so far. They're 3-0 to start the year. Not bad. Oh, please, please, please notice. Notice. Give me the start. God damn it. Why do my GMs not recognize that, you know, I would love to play against my former team. You know, the team that originally drafted me first overall. Joffrey Lupul, I think he came back and got injured, re-injured again. God damn, Joffrey Lupul's struggling here. All right, so we finally get our first game of the year. We're going to be at home. We're going to start in the ACC, and we're going to go up against a very familiar opponent, which we have a pretty good history against, and that's the Buffalo Sabres. So 3 years down the road, Buffalo's still kind of struggling right now, 1-4, and we're going to get our first start of the year against the Buffalo Sabres. So we still do have some time here. Let's take a look at the stats and see what everybody's looking like. All the teams are looking like so far. We're only going to take a look at, you know, their top players so far, and we'll see. All right, so let's start with goaltenders first. All right, so Toronto, we have Jonathan Bernier and Rick DiPietro. Vancouver, Eddie Lack and Ryan Miller. Okay. Washington, they got Braden Holtby so far only started. Winnipeg, Michael Hutchinson and Andre Pavlik. Okay. Let's see. Arizona, okay, so Mike Smith only there. Frederick Anderson and John Gibson. So yeah, I probably would have felt bad if we went to Anaheim. That would have taken away a spot from one of those two guys. All right, Arizona, Boston, Tuukka Rask. Buffalo, Hackett and Neuwirth, but Hackett is injured right now at the time being, so Michael Neuwirth will probably get the start for Buffalo that game when we play them. Calgary, Hiller. So Hiller's having a good start to the year. Once again, 4 games played, 3-0-1 for the Calgary Flames. 1.69, good start for Calgary yet again. They did this last year. They had a good start, and you know, then they just went. Whew. But Cam Ward in Carolina, Corey Crawford in Chicago, Rito Barra and Calvin Pickard for Colorado. No Semyon Varlamov to be found there. Columbus, Bobrovsky, Oscar Dansk is now starting in net for the Blue Jackets by year 3. Dallas, Karletinen, Howard and Mrazek in Detroit. Edmonton, Fost and Scrivey. Florida, they got Budai and Luongo. LA, Layton and Jonathan Quick. Michael Layton's 2-0. Good Lord. He's 35, 75 overall. God Lord. Michael Layton must think he's part of that Philadelphia Flyers team again. Good Lord. 5-hole Layton. Harding and Montoya. So Harding is out right now, or cannot play. Weirdly enough, 3-0 for Harding, but that's weird. Carey Price and Tokarski. Nashville, Pecorine. Devils have Clemenson and Schneider. Halak and Chad Johnson in New York. Rangers, Lundqvist and Talbot. Ottawa, Lehner and Jindrik Packle. Interesting. 21 years old. He must be a drafted player. Yeah, I would think so. Ottawa definitely must have drafted a goalie this year. But Robin Lehner and Jindrik Packle. That's an interesting name. Philly's got Steve Mason. Pittsburgh, Fleury. St. Louis, Brian Elliott. Tampa Bay, Ben Bishop, Nabokov, and back to us with Bernier and DiPietro. All right, so defense, like I said, there's the defense for them. Let's take a look. We have plenty of time here. We can look at all these guys. So Edler, Spiza, Corrado, Stanton, Tanev, and Weber for them. All right, Green, Niskanen, Orlov, Alsner, Carlson, and Brooks Orpik in Washington. Winnipeg, Enstrom, Kitchen, Trouba, Bogosian, Klitzum, Postma, and Stewart. Whoops, that's the entire league. We won't want to do that. All right, Anaheim. So here's oh, yeah. We could have been reunited with our old pal Mark Giordano. I think that means scratched. I think that's what that X means. Maybe it is. I don't know. But Fowler, Giordano, Brian Allen, Fistrick, Lindholm, Lovejoy, and Sammy Vatanen. So yeah, their defense is a little bit sketchy there in Anaheim. Kind of glad I didn't go there. So we could have reunited with Giordano. That's good. Arizona, Ekman Larson, Yandel, Gormley, McCulloch, Schlemko, and Stone. Okay. Boston, Krug, Seidenberg, Morris, Joe Morrow. He's starting now for their team. 23 years old, 84 for Joe Morrow, and Dougie Hamilton, 89 overall. Buffalo. All right, so we're getting a little preview here. So Myers, Jake McCabe is now playing for the Buffalo Sabres, 23 years old, defenseman. Mazzaros, Georges, Pissick, Ristolainen, and Weber. That defense is pretty good in Buffalo. It's respectable, to say the least. Calgary. So here's what they got in Calgary. Schmid, Brody, Russell, Ben, Weidman, and Englund, and Volchenkov. So remember, they signed Volchenkov at the end of last year. Their best defenseman is Ladislav Smid. Good Lord. Thank God I got it out of Calgary. I'm glad I didn't stay there. Good Lord. All right, Carolina. Sakara, Ellerby, Falk, Hainsey, Hillen, and Murphy. Okay, Murphy's in the roster by now. Chicago, Letty, Keith, Rumblad, Seabrook, Jalmerson, and Oduya. Okay. Barry, Biggrass. Chris Biggrass is playing now for Colorado. Duncan Siemens is playing now as well. Holden and Eric Johnson. Columbus, Savard, Erickson, Murray, Wisniewski, Frazier, Mark Frazier, Jack Johnson, and Fedor Tutin. All right, Dallas. Campbell, Brian Campbell, Trevor Daley, Goligoski, Bieksa, Bufflin, and Dillon. That's a very different looking defense for Dallas. Smith, Kindle, DeKaiser, Erickson, Ouliette, and Bacon, country's favorite player. Schultz, Nikitin, Clefbaum, Larson, Burinson, and Petrie. Burinson's pretty good, 87 overall. Olsen, Ekblad, Petrovic, Robach, Gabranson, and Kulikov for Florida. LA, Dowdy, Martinez, Schultz, Muzzin, Slaven Voynov, and Tim Gleason. Minnesota. All right, so here's the defense we passed up in Minnesota. Ryan Suter, Dumba, Chris Butler, Spurgeon, Keith Ballard, Jonas Burdine, and Marco Scandella. Other than Suter, nothing really too special. All right, Montreal's got Markov, Subban, Emlyn, Cronwall in Montreal. Interesting. Jane McBain, Tenorti, and Mike Weaver. Interesting. Nashville, Seth Jones, Matthias Ekholm, Roman Yossi, Ellis, Shea Weber, and Victor Bartley. Pretty good there. Jelena, Larson, Koliakovo, Green, Axel Eldstedt. He must have been another, drafted player. And John Merrill for New Jersey. All right, how's the New York Islanders defense looking? All right, it's about time, yeah. Their defense is looking a little bit better now. Griffin Reinhardt's 86 by now, so that's pretty good. DeHaan's still an 82. Matt Donovan's an 80. Hamannik's 83. Hickey's 81. Scott Mayfield, interesting name there. He's probably a prospect, 77 overall there. Rangers, McDonough, Girardi, Klein, Moore, Stahl, McIlraith. Yep, it's a good defense there in New York. Carlson, Weirkoch, CC, Cowan, Mathot, Pickenen. Philadelphia, what does this look like? Hamhuis, McDonald, Coburn, Grossman, Leopold, and Luke Shen. Letang, Mata, Harrington, Dupree, Earhoff, Martin. Okay, that looks the same there. Bouwmeester, Eric Gustafson is in St. Louis. Shattenkirk. San Jose's got Abelhauser, Demirs, Vlasic, Braun, Irwin, and Mueller. Tampa Bay, Garrison, Carl, Gudas, Hedman, Brewer, Strawman, and then us. Okay, pretty much, there's some names there. We're just going to look at all forwards now for all teams, just see if there's any notable names in there. So, Kucherov, Palat, Panic's in there. Ram-Rabada's on Tampa Bay now. Havlat as well. All right, we know the forwards for Toronto. Vancouver, let's see. Go on, Spinino. Yeah, there's some names in there. Bo Horvat, Vey, Virtanen's on their roster now as well. Okay, Washington. Burakovsky, Jacob Vrana is playing for the Washington Capitals. Interesting. Eliash, yeah, this team's pretty good. Kuznetsov, Wilson, okay. Winnipeg, any other names here? Shifley, Ladd, Patan. Patan's playing, or Patan, Ryan White, Eric Odell, Colin Wilson, okay. Let's go back to the beginning here. Anaheim. All right, so let's see what the Anaheim team was looking like here. Kessler. Oh, Danny Heat. Oh, how could I pass up the All-Star, man? I should have just went there. Me and Danny Heatley would have been sniping Genos all over the place. So I'm just showing you guys all their overalls too by year 3, just so that you can see. If you don't want to skip, if you could skip over this, pretty much the video is over after we do this. Klinkhammer. Okay, Boston. Let's see any notable names here. Spooter. DeFazio, Brendan DeFazio. Koklachev is now playing for them as well. Buffalo, alright, we get a preview of their lineup here. All right, Sam Reinhart's ready by now. He's 85. All right, so he's on the team by now. Stafford, Grigrenko, Gergensen, Stewart, Dolp, Ennis, Foligno, Cormac, Matt Molson, Larson. All right, so their offense is looking good in Buffalo. All right, Calgary, how's your offense looking? Granlund, Hoodler, Raymond, Colburn, Arnold, Backlund, Barchi, Monahan, Johnny Hockey, Jones, Stajan, Bowlig. So their offense pretty much looks exactly the same as last year. No changes whatsoever. Derek Roy's in Carolina now. Let's see anybody else. Cal Yarncroc is in there. Blanchard, Brock McGinn. Brock McGinn's playing for them. Jordan Stollinger, Zalusti. All right, Chicago. Teravainen. Yep. Sod. Richards, Taze, Bickle, Hartman, Kane, Kruger, Sharp, Shaw, Smith, and Versteeg. Yeah, Chicago looks like a good team this year. Landeskog. Anybody really noticeable here? Jay McGinn. Who's this guy? Francois Bouvier. Paul Biznasty's playing in Colorado. Connor Bleakley. Justin Johnson. Nick Magyar. Interesting names there. Let's see. In Columbus, we got D'Amigo, Jenner, Ott. Steve Ott's playing in there. Kirby Reichels now on the team. Dallas, Spezza, Zetterberg. The Dallas Stars look like a powerhouse of a team. Good Lord. Glad we moved over here. Sagan, Ben. Look at that. Look at that. They have Jamie Benn, Tyler Sagan, and Henrik Zetterberg on the first line. That's nasty. That's a nasty lineup. Eakin. Nijushkin, Brett Ritchie's good by this time. Roussel. Yeah, Dallas looks like a good team. Alright, Detroit, Bergenheim. Abdelkader, Yurko, Mantha's on the team now. Marek Tivdrin, Glendening, Nyquist, Steven Weiss. Alright, Edmonton. Everly Hall, Nuge. Justin Fontaine is now in Edmonton. Mitch Baraz, Zach Sill. Florida, Huberdeau, Jokinen, Barkov, Bukestad. Pierre Shore, Trocheck, and Jimmy Hayes. Alright, Florida's lineup looks the same. Mike Richards, Justin, Jeff Carter, Pearson, Stoll, Clifford, Gabrick. Yeah, that lineup in LA looks pretty similar. Minnesota's offense. Here we go. Koivu, Vanek, Niederreiter, Coyle, Granlund, Pominville, Zucker, Brodziak, Phillips, BJ Crombie, Halula, and Parise. Not a bad lineup offense there that we could have joined up with there in Minnesota. Galchenyuk. Any names here? Nothing really too out of the ordinary there in Nashville. Then again, it's only showing players with that have played games so far. So Forsberg, Neal, Smith, Bork, Ole Jokinen there in Nashville. Carcillo, Kevin Fiala starting now for Nashville as well. Colton Orr's over there. New Jersey has anything good here? Spiller, Andre Spiller. So Jersey's definitely starting to play some things there. Colton Gillies, Jeffrey Gilligan, Mateo, Stefan Mateau's in there. Kevin Veilleux, Charles Zajac still. All right, New York Islanders. How's this offense looking? So Franz Nielsen, Cizikas, Grabowski, Nelson, Okposo, Strome is now by this time. Oh my God, Ryan Strome, 88 overall. Whew. Johnny T, Conacher, Kuhlman, Clutterbuck, Grabner, and Jack Skilly and Josh Bailey. Yeah, the team in New York is looking good by this time. You know, Ryan Strome jumped up like hell. Hagelin, anybody out of the ordinary here? Cormier, Patrice Cormier, Tanner Glass, JT Miller is pretty good by this time. Ottawa by Ryan, Chasen, Pierre Reagan, Nathan Gerby's in there, Curtis Lazar, and Zach Smith. Philly, what's the offensive Philly looking like? G, Simmer, Umberger, Henrik Sedin is in Philly. Good Lord. Jake, Burrows. Jeez, we took on Sedin and Burrows. Fair, Reed, Gagliardi, Lawton. Interesting lineup there. All right, Malkin, Bennett, Crosby. Nothing out of the ordinary there in Pittsburgh. St. Louis. Daniel Sedin's in St. Louis. So Oshie, Ratty is good by this time. Berglund, Brody. That's Troy Brody. Pyarvi, Reeves, and Steen, and Tarasenko. And then the San Jose Sharks and Tampa Bay will be last. Marlowe, Thornton, Couture, Hurdle, Nieto, Scotty Upshaw's in there. Tarnaski, Wingles, And Tampa Bay finally. Filippo Boyle, Stamkos, Kucherov. Yeah, we already did those guys. All right, so there's all the forwards there. 40-minute video just showing you guys all the players in the lineups for pretty much the whole entire NHL league this year, 3 years in, so you can see which teams have gotten some better players, which teams are subbing in some different players as well. But all in all, we're ready to get our third year started with Rick DiPietro as a part of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we're going to be having our home ACC opener against the Buffalo Sabres, a team, like I said, we're very familiar with. We played them a lot. And, you know, they're getting better. They're getting better by the year. So it might be a little bit more difficult this time around. But, you know, we've had the experience. And we're hoping to continue the good record that Toronto has so far. 3-1 to start the year. Let's see if we can continue that going. All right, guys. So Toronto versus Buffalo up next, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of Rick DiPietro's decision to join the Toronto Maple Leafs and not going with either Minnesota, Anaheim, or Calgary. So let me know what you guys think about those decisions. Other than that, thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like, comment, subscribe as always, and we'll see you next time when we take on the Buffalo Sabres.